Hi everyone, welcome to another segment of Word of the Day. My name is Caesar and we're Inspire Movement. I hope that you're having a wonderful start to your week. Today we're going to continue with the word death. We all know what death is, but just to provide a formal definition, it is the permanent, irreversible cessation of all biological functions that are needed to sustain the life of a living organism. Typically when somebody's passing away or passed away, we undergo a deep grieving process. And that's typically like a 7-stage process that starts with the initial shock and denial that somebody passed away. Typically followed by some form of denial, then some form of pain and just raw anger, then a bargaining phase, followed by depression, and lastly acceptance and hope, which is where we all want to eventually get to. What do we do if somebody is in hospice in their last days? How do we deal with that? The first thing that we need to consider is to not wait. Don't wait. Meaning to say, you have something on your chest that you need to get out, and these are the last few hours, maybe days that you have with that person. By all means, get it out. I love you. I'm so sorry for having done this or that. Thank you for all the things that you've done for me. Definitely we could start there. Try to be frank and honest with the situation that they're in. Don't try to mask it in any other way. Offer some form of reassurance. They may be in a lot of agony over leaving their loved ones behind. Offer them reassurance that their loved ones are going to be okay. Keep talking to them. I've recently learned that one of the last senses that goes is actually hearing. So you can sing to that loved one if they've already lost consciousness. You can talk to them. You can share stories. Be present for them for sure. And lastly, also know that it's not all about pain and suffering. If that person is still conscious while in hospice, you can make them laugh. You can share about the good times that you've had. Maybe relive or retell some of the stories that you've shared, good stories. Make them feel good. Make them laugh. That's a great way to go. Why are we so deathly afraid of dying? Well, for one, I know that certainly applies for me. I'm sure it applies for everybody watching this. None of us want to have a long, debilitating illness that is painful and requires a lot of suffering. That goes for everybody. So that's definitely a fear that we have of dying and the dying process. Leaving our loved ones behind, like I mentioned before, we're definitely feeling kind of like that, loneliness of leaving our loved ones behind. Also, the fact that it's completely outside of our control. There's nothing that we could do about it. And the fear of the unknown is something that's valid for all of us. And maybe for some people, maybe dying in a kind of undignified sort of way. That could be another reason why they could have a big fear of death. How do we overcome a fear of death? Typically this is called thanatophobia, and it is treated typically by a therapist if it's a really deep-seated fear. And what the therapy tries to arrive at is basically, acceptance that death is a natural process and we all have to basically cross that bridge at some juncture of our lives. To try to focus on the gratitude towards the things that we've had in this life, to try to live in the present moment, which we've talked about at length in previous segments. That's also something that you try to address when you're going through thanatophobia therapy. So those are some of the things that you try to highlight. When I try to make a personal connection or reflection with the word death, I can tell you for a large swath of my life, I didn't really experience death within close proximity to me. Nobody around my inner circle really passed away. Usually very distant. It seemed like it happened to other people, not to me. Over the last 5 years, though, I can honestly say a lot of family members and friends have passed away. So certainly death has come knocking on the door. Typically happens when you're about midlife, as I am right now. So it's not necessarily something strange. But definitely comes with a lot of disbelief, a lot of shock, a lot of pain, sometimes some anger, and some of the things that I mentioned previously. Like I've said in these segments before, my own father passed away about 2 years ago, and I'm certainly just, I think, beginning to wrap my head around that as abruptly as it happened. But as I try to maybe look at things from a glass half full sort of vantage point, I think what I can offer is that when somebody passes away, rather than focus on just the pain and the anger and all of those different stages that we mentioned with grieving solely, to try to really process that pain. And as soon as you do, try to arrive at celebrating that person's life and the lasting legacy that they left. I think that's what I would certainly want for myself and And I think what all of us would want is that people remember us, and remember us with a smile, that they remember us in a nice way, and with not so much raw, painful emotion. So I feel like one of the things that we're tasked to do in life is to try to be as loving as we can, so that that lasting legacy that we leave behind, that message on that epitaph, is a positive one and not one filled with many, many regrets. Sure, we all have regrets, but we can certainly try to do the best that we can while we're here to leave that, to cement that legacy that we want to leave behind. So that's, maybe some of the connections that I can try to offer to you, is to try to celebrate the life and not to really emphasize on the death of the person. I hope that some of these thoughts, some of these things that come to my mind are of use to somebody watching this out there. Certainly tune into our segments and share with us any word that you want us to study or look at. More than a pleasure to do so. If you haven't connected with us at www.inspiremovement.com, I welcome you to. Thank you so much for your patronage, and I wish you a blessed week.